Well, it's definitely earned me more money. Just like Decatur, they were paying 70 cents more for summer corn there in August. We were hauling corn 100 mile for 40 cents, and we're making 30 cents, and I wouldn't even known that price was probably on there. I wouldn't have thought of calling Decatur, but when you go to the Grower's Edge page, then it takes all that running around out of it for you.
Good afternoon, welcome to GrainTV. My name is Cody Bills. Today is Tuesday the 26th, and we had the markets moving lower here, mostly on account of the U.S. dollar gaining strength against the euro. Some concerns out of Greece and stability of the euro over there, causing a little bit of rally here for the U.S. dollar, and that's putting pressure on the commodities in general. But before we get into too much of this day's GrainTV, let's turn over to the GrainTV trading platform. See where we closed off the day. Corn trading down 5.5 cents. Soybeans down 2 cents, and wheat in Chicago here down 22.5 cents. Now, wheat was leading the charge lower today. Let's just take a quick look at the chart. On Friday, we were talking about wheat. We were talking about the consolidation right at this 100-day moving average. The fact that we could have an instance where we break out above this, or we could have an instance where we break out below. But either way, typically following these patterns of consolidation, you get a large price directional move, price expansion. That's what we got here today, sharp selling. Now, I do think there could be some support down there around 485, so just be cautious tomorrow if you are short selling going into this, playing the trend lower. Just be cautious that there could be some support down there around 485. This may not necessarily be the start of a continuation of this downtrend. We may find some support down there. Who knows? We could get back up to this 100-day moving average. That, of course, is the risk. But right now, what we do know is that the downtrend is still intact. The fact that we still have lower lows, we still have lower highs. So that is the trend that we're going to want to pay attention to. That's the trend that we're going to want to bias. But just be cautious here. Could see some support right around that 485 price level. When you look at corn, we did see some damage to the charts. Once again, continuation to the downside, breaking through the lows. I think there's a very good chance for this July contract that we end up going down, retesting these lows that were set in the late September, early October time period. I think there's a good chance we get down to that 346 level here shortly. When you look at the chart, you can clearly see that the downtrend is intact. This was kind of a failed reversal here that we saw over the last couple of weeks, unable to move higher here, and as a result, we continue to trend lower. I just think that corn is one of those that you really you're going to want to protect the downside, especially as we move closer to these lows that were set back in September. Let's talk a little bit about export inspections here. They came out this morning. It was pretty much positive across the board. We saw 1 million metric tons inspected of corn inspected for export. Analysts were expecting anywhere between 800,000 to a million metric tons. So that was on the high side of analysts' expectations. Soybeans, we saw 291,000 metric tons inspected for export. That was above even the high side of the analyst guess here, which ranged up to 250,000 metric tons. And wheat came out with 418,000 metric tons inspected for export. Positive, again, beating the high side of analyst expectations, which ranged from 250,000 metric tons to 400,000 metric tons. Let's talk a little bit about the weather here, the outlook. Of course, over the weekend, we got a significant amount of rain. That, again, put some pressure here on wheat. It was interesting. Wheat sold off pretty sharply, and I think it had a lot to do with just technical selling. In general, we did get a few revisions higher here for wheat. We got Soviet Econ kind of raising their Russian forecast. We also saw Ukraine Agriconsult raising their Ukrainian forecast for overall wheat. Primarily for grains. They also increased their wheat forecast out of Ukraine. So those all could have been putting some pressure on the markets, but in general, I think it's a very bearish sentiment out there, overall bearish trend, and that's what took hold here today. When you look at the weather, like what I was mentioning earlier on, today and yesterday, we did get a significant amount of rain throughout the southern plains and the Kansas City wheat regions. That is continuing to cause concerns about the crop quality. And though today in the crop progress report We did not see any revisions in the good to excellent ratings. It is something that people are paying attention to. Crop disease is going to be a theme here as we move into harvest season. When you look at the weather outlook going into this week, it looks like middle to later part of the week we're going to be cooler than normal across most of the Midwest. It looks as though we're also going to get more thunder showers, more potential for flooding there in the southern plains area. It looks like sometime around Thursday, Friday, that's when we're going to get a good amount of precipitation. But after that, it looks like it opens the door for a little bit more drying trend. When you look at next week's weather outlook, you'll notice that it does stay a little bit cooler there in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, but you'll notice that it does start to start this trend of drying and being and alleviating some of that excess moisture that we've received over the last 5 weeks of precipitation. Now, when we look at the crop progress report that came out today, let's just go through the numbers. This came out after the market closed, so this will be traded in the overnight session and part of tomorrow's trade. You'll notice 92% of corn has been planted. That's still well ahead of pace that we typically see in the 4-year average, which is right around 88%. So the corn planting is mostly done. We're mostly in the ground. We should wrap up the majority of that the remainder of this week, and there seems to be plenty of opportunity to do so. Corn conditions were the first reported here this year. Analysts were expecting to see pretty good corn conditions. You'll notice that we had 74% good to excellent. That's very positive to see. We had 76% good to excellent last year when they first reported crop conditions on June 1st. So in general, we're off to a good start. We have a good amount of crop in the good to excellent rating. This crop conditions, I think, is just another reason to put a little pressure here on corn. When you look at soybeans, you'll notice we were 61% planted compared to the average pace of 55% planted. So again, soybeans also running ahead of pace. Everything seems to be positive here. This doesn't seem to be any major scares. South America is doing fine. In terms of their production, they do seem to have disruptions in the ports off and on. That does seem to be a continuing theme down there, but in general, the crop production out of South America seems to be very good. And in general, we start off this week to a negative note, and I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see that trend throughout the week. We'll have to see how it all shakes out here. Wednesday we should get the ethanol. That's typically what we see. We'll have to see how that comes out. Guys, if you have any questions about what we talked about today, please give the office a call. The number is 877-472-4607. Look forward to seeing you here on Wednesday.